When Alex returned to his seat, Dr. Harding addressed both him and Karen. "I've reviewed the situation, and we have an executive decision," he announced with calm authority. "In recognition of Mr. Chen's cooperation, the airline is upgrading him to our last remaining business class seat." Karen's expression shifted from smug to outraged. "But that's..." Additionally, Dr. Harding continued smoothly, "As part of our new compassionate flying initiative, we'd like to offer Jaden a special opportunity." He turned to the boy, whose eyes widened with interest. "Would you be interested in visiting the cockpit before takeoff? Our pilots are prepared to explain how the aircraft works, which many passengers with flight anxiety find helpful." Jaden's face lit up. "Really? I could see the cockpit." For the first time, Karen seemed at a loss for words. As Alex gathered his belongings for the upgrade, Jaden unexpectedly touched his arm. "I'm sorry about my mom," he whispered. "She gets like this when she's scared of flying." Karen overheard and flushed, but this time with embarrassment rather than anger. Later, as Alex settled into his spacious business class seat, his phone buzzed with a notification. The hashtag window seat Karen was trending, with multiple videos of the incident already virally circulating. But there was another notification, a message from the airline's customer service. "Mr. Chen, we'd like to invite you to participate in our focus group on conflict resolution in confined spaces. As Dr. Harding may have mentioned, today's incident was partly staged as part of our crew training program. Your genuine reaction and the real passenger conflict provided valuable data. As compensation for being an unwitting participant, we'd like to offer you complimentary business class upgrades for your next 3 flights." Alex leaned back in his seat, laughing to himself. The airline had managed to turn Karen's genuine entitlement into a training opportunity, and he'd scored 3 free upgrades in the process. Sometimes justice had a way of arriving in the most unexpected packages. Alex gripped his boarding pass tightly as he settled into seat 14A. This window seat hadn't been random. It was strategically selected 6 months ago when he'd booked this flight to Iceland. As a photojournalist with crippling claustrophobia, the window seat wasn't just a preference, it was a necessity. Just as he was arranging his noise-canceling headphones, a throat-clearing sound cut through the pre-flight bustle. A woman stood in the aisle, designer handbag dangling from one arm, her other hand firmly clutching the shoulder of a sullen preteen boy. "That's our seat," she announced, not as a suggestion but as a declaration. "My son Jaden needs the window seat." Alex politely held up his boarding pass. "I'm sorry, but I specifically booked 14A. The woman, who would later become known to 500,000 TikTok viewers as first-class Karen, snorted dismissively. "Look, Jaden has severe anxiety and can only fly if he can see outside. You look perfectly healthy. Move to the middle seat." What she couldn't see was Alex's white-knuckled grip on the armrest, the first sign of the panic attack that would soon begin if he lost his window position. "Ma'am, I've checked both tickets," said the flight attendant Sophia, after being summoned by Karen's increasingly theatrical sighs. "This gentleman does have 14A assigned." Karen's expertly contoured face flushed beneath her makeup. "Do you know who I am?" she hissed. "My husband is a Diamond Medallion member. We fly this airline exclusively. Actually," she added, pulling out her phone, "I'm going to call him right now. He's friends with your regional director." As Karen dialed, her son Jaden shrank visibly, his eyes fixed on his shoes. Alex noticed the boy's hands were trembling slightly. Perhaps his anxiety wasn't entirely fabricated. Meanwhile, Alex's chest was tightening. Being the center of attention was triggering his own anxiety. The faces of nearby passengers had transformed from disinterested to intensely focused on the unfolding drama. Some were already recording discreetly with their phones. Just as Sophia began to suggest alternative seating arrangements, the aircraft suddenly dimmed. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a minor electrical issue. Please remain seated while our engineers investigate." Karen's eyes narrowed. Is this some kind of joke to avoid dealing with my complaint? 30 minutes later, with the electrical issue resolved but tension still thick in the air, a tall, distinguished man in an air marshal uniform approached their row. "Is there a problem here?" he asked quietly. Karen immediately launched into her grievances. The air marshal listened patiently before turning to Alex. "Sir, may I see your boarding pass again?" Alex handed it over, heart sinking. Even though he was in the right, authority figures often sided with the loudest complainant. The air marshal studied the pass, then glanced at Alex with an unreadable expression. "Mr. Chen, could I have a word with you privately?" Confused and increasingly anxious, Alex followed him to the front of the cabin, aware of Karen's triumphant expression. Once out of earshot, the marshal's demeanor changed completely. "I apologize for the theatrics," he said quietly. "I'm not actually an air marshal. I'm Dr. James Harding, the airline's onboard mental health consultant for this pilot program. Your seatmate discreetly alerted the crew about what was happening." He handed Alex a business card, confirming his identity. "We have a strict new protocol for handling situations like this. Would you be willing to participate in a resolution approach?"